Hare Krishna, everyone. Just give me a minute. Okay. Great. So let us start with our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanachhalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Tadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Paranamami Haripriye Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So thank you. So we are having class today because next weekend we will not be having the class because of the auspicious occasion of Sri Narsinga Chaturdashi. So it's a very beautiful festival. So again a reminder, we'll be discussing Narsingh Katha on Saturday. Lord Narsinga is very, very special. So we'll discuss something about his specialty on next Saturday. So we have progressed to a fair extent through the Vaishnav etiquette book. Now, of course, while we are going through the book and reading through and discussing a bit, at the end of the day, only when you all practice this on a regular basis, put it into practice in your life, only then these aspects of Vaishnava etiquette will become part of your life. The idea is not theoretical information here. The idea is to make this as a part of our culture. This should be our standard behavior, whatever is mentioned here. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Vaishnav Sadachar is the ornament which decorates the body of a Vaishnava. So I'm just going to quickly share the screen and then let's get into. Let me know when you can see the screen.
Can see, Prabhuji.
Okay, so we completed, I think, the section on the kitchen part, right? I think we have completed this and we came to the point of here. Yeah, we stop. So, and like Amit mentioned, for the second part, we are going to continue from the section of austerity. So we'll come to that in our second half. I want to just quickly scan through the appendices. There are a few of them here. The appendix is containing not directly etiquette information, but reference information of various prayers as well as various technicalities or rituals. So I just want to quickly go through and see if you have any question on any of them. So questions can be around, oh, when to use this, why like this, what is the meaning, how, any questions around this which you may have encountered at any point that you have in your mind and you wanted to ask. So Appendix 1. So Appendix 1 lists the various Pranama mantras. So the meaning of Pranama mantra is that mantra which is offering obeisances to a particular deity or a personality. So one can offer obeisances to Guru, that is Guru Pranam, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Pranati, Pranati is Pranam. And Pranam mantras usually will have the Namaha, Namaha because you're offering obeisances, because Pranam is Namaha. So this is one of the most popular mantras, the Guru Pranam mantra here, especially Prabhupada Pranam mantra. Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarini. And the translation: I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, Krishna Preshthaya, having taken shelter at His lotus feet, Vishnu Padaya, and our respectful obeisances are unto you. Nama Om. O spiritual master, servant of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Namaste Saraswati Devi. You are preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya, Dev, Gauravani Pracharine, and delivering the Western countries, Paschatya Deshatarine, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. I'm just briefly mapping the terms to the meaning so that you can understand. When we understand the meanings of the words, it's so much easier to remember the mantra. See, it is very difficult sometimes even for initiation devotees try to remember and by heart these mantras. So some are able to, but I don't really see a need to by heart the mantra, because if you roughly understand the meaning of the words, you can constitute the meaning by as you are reciting the particular prayers. So Guru Pranam is very important because for any worship, okay, I just want to mention one more thing because it is not mentioned here. The first part of this prayer, which is Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine, is a standard Pranati mantra for a Guru. Because this Pranati mantra is for Prabhupada, it says Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. If the Pranati mantra is for our Guru and our Guru is a disciple of Prabhupada, then instead of Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine, it will become Srimate our Guru Swamin Iti Namine, where we'll replace our Guru's name. So for me as a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, I will say Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Radhanath Swamin Iti Namine, and so on and so forth for each of the Gurus. So that mantra is exactly the same, it's just that the name of the Guru is replaced. Now in Prabhupada's Pranam mantra, there is of course one more extra verse, and that verse is added because it glorifies Srila Prabhupada's very explicit contribution in terms of what he did, which is that he took the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati to preach the instructions of Lord Chaitanya in the West, and he delivered the Western people from impersonalism and voidism. So that is the most noteworthy contribution of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So that is mentioned. So some gurus may have two verses, which means they may have an additional verse beyond the first verse. So within the ISKCON setup, all gurus have the first mantra, and some of them may also have a second mantra. So those who are initiated, obviously you know, because you cannot be initiated and not know this. But I'm just letting the others also know so that they can understand that this is how. And pranam mantras are important because whether it is when we offer obeisances, when we offer naivedya, when we do service, when we offer obeisances, we have to recite the pranam mantra. So, you know, we or even in kirtan for that matter, we recite the pranam mantras. So all these pranam mantras should be by heart. So that's Prabhupada's pranam. Of course, there are separate pranam mantras for the previous acharyas, which are not listed here. They are available in the song book. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has his own pranam mantras. His guru, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, then Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, all of them have their pranam mantras. And they are mentioned. In their pranam mantras, other than Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, whose pranam mantra follows this format, others have a slightly different format. So for and Bhaktivedanta Saraswati doesn't just have one verse; he has a few verses to glorify him. So even in his case, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati iti name. And then he has a few verses. So for those verses, you can refer to the song books which have those verses. Then this is the Pranam mantra for Lord Chaitanya. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prem Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Dora Dvishe Namaha. And this is Krishna's Pranam mantra. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. So even when we offer obeisances in front of the deities, we recite all these pranam mantras. We recite our Guru's pranam mantra, then we recite Prabhupada's pranam mantra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pranam mantra, and Krishna's pranam mantra. And we can even add Radharani's pranam mantra. Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavana Shri Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari. And then this is the Panchatattva mantra, which is also very popular. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta. So I'm not going to go through each of the mantras in detail. Most of you are aware of this mantras. So all these mantras you should have by heart, and many of these mantras are part even of the offering procedure, the Naivedya offering procedure to the Lord. So all of you who are offering Naivedya, you are quite familiar. As a part of the offering Naivedya, we offer Guru's Pranam 3 times, Prabhupada's Pranam 3 times, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Pranam 3 times, and then we offer Krishna's Pranam. Of course, we do not chant this particular mantra, Krishna Pranam. We say Namo Brahmanya Devaya Gu Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagad Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namah. That's another Pranam mantra. So Krishna's Pranam mantra only. That's another Pranam mantra. So Prabhupada advised us to use that mantra, and that is why we are using that particular mantra. But technically, before we approach Krishna, first we approach our Guru, then Prabhupada, then Gauranga, and then Radha Krishna. That is the sequence. That is why the mantras are also in that sequence. Any questions on the Pranam mantras? Okay. So Tulsi also has Pranam mantra, even though it's not mentioned here. What is Tulsi Devi's Pranam mantra? Anybody can share?
Namo Namaha Tulsi Krishna Prayasi.
That is Tulasi Kirtan. That is the song we sing during the Kirtan. But what is the Pranam mantra? What do we sing? As soon as the Tulsi Aarti begins, first we offer obeisances 3 times and recite a Pranam mantra, right? Of Tulsi Devi. Vrindaye Tulsi Devyayai, Vyayai, Yeshivasya Krishna Bhakti Prada Devi, Satyavatyai Namo Namaha. So we recite that. So that is Tulsi Devi's Pranam mantra. Okay, so all these Pranam mantras should be by heart. So for those who are serious practitioners, and my understanding is that all of you here are serious practitioners or wanting to become serious practitioners, either way, all these Pranam mantras you must know. I'm sure Tulsi Devi's Pranam mantra is mentioned elsewhere in this book. It's just that it's not mentioned in this section. So offering obeisances, the process of pranam, in the early morning or whenever visiting the temple, one should offer obeisances to the deities only after waking them. So the general process is, if the altar is closed and the deities are resting, one doesn't offer obeisances to the deities in the temple. Because the idea is we don't want to disturb the Lord who's already resting. So that is the general. Even for sannyasis, gurus, or even for other devotees who are resting, the culture is one should not offer obeisances or do pradakshina, circumambulation, when the Lord or the devotee is resting. So The next point is more for the pujaris who are actually serving the deities directly. It is said one should not offer obeisances inside the deity room. One should offer just outside the deity room and then enter the deity room. So this is for those who are actually serving the deities in the pujari room. So once inside the deity room, one can offer pranam by folding one's hands, by mantra and within the mind, but not by actually bowing down inside the. So there are two kinds of pranam. There is a full pranam and there is a half pranam. So a full pranam or a full obeisance is known as a Ashtangapranam. Ashtangapranam is sometimes also referred to as Dandavat Pranam. So why Dandavat? Danda means stick. Vat means like. So falling down like a stick. So if you see on this page, this devotee is falling down flat with his hands and feet outstretched and his forehead touching the floor. That is Dandavat, falling down like a stick. So that's a symbol of surrender. So it's known as Dandavat. It's also called as Ashtanga because in this pranam, 8 angas of the feet, of the body touch the floor. The feet, knees, chest, hand, head, sight, mind, and words. So in the feet, we are talking about both feet, both knees, and of course chest, hands, and head. We should have our eyes cast down and half open, and we should recite the pranam prayers while meditating on the deity or the guru while one is offering one's obeisances. So when one is offering the obeisances, one can recite. Ideally, one recites the pranam mantras in this position. So there are some ways in which people offer obeisances which are not correct. So this X means not correct. So don't go into a sleeping position like this and put your head on the side. The forehead should be touching the floor. That is important. Nor should the hands be near the chest. So the hands should be extended upright. Now, one thing to mention here is ladies are not supposed to offer Ashtanga Pranam. Okay, this Ashtanga Pranam is only for the men. Yeah. Amit, Prabhu, want to say something?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Just one question on this. When you're offering Dandavat Pranam and your forehead is touching the ground, if you apply tilak, the tilak will touch the ground. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. Just gently touch the forehead. You can touch the top of your head, so you don't actually directly rub the tilak here, right? You can just touch this part of the forehead, the upper part, almost towards the head. Then the tilak will not directly rub the floor.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So just slightly bend your head in such a way that the top of the forehead touches. So that is Ashtanga Pranam. And there is Panchanga Pranam. So Panchanga Pranam means 5 limbs of the body touch. So what are the 5 limbs? The knees, arms, head, intellect, and words. In this case, the chest does not touch the ground. The elbows and the palms are supposed to touch the ground. One should not offer this kind of an obeisances on one hand. One should be careful to offer with both hands. If one happens to have a bead bag within the hand, then one should be careful to not let the bead bag touch the floor. So you can see how this devotee is holding the beads in the hand on his palm so that the beads don't touch the floor. So one should just be careful. The third diagram is showing an erroneous way of offering obeisances. One should not offer obeisances like this on one hand. So men may perform Ashtanga or Panchanga, but women perform only the Panchanga Pranam. So while one is offering obeisances to the deities, one recites first our spiritual master's Pranam mantra, then Prabhupada's Pranam mantra, and then the mantra for the deities. So we already discussed that. So when you see the deities, you offer obeisances, and usually when we offer obeisances, the Ashtanga Pranam or even this Pranam, we generally do it in such a way that the deity is on the left. So this is not a slide, right? So I can't show. Okay. So you can see my mouse movement on the screen. Are you able to see? Anyone?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
You can, right? Okay. So assume the deity is here. Yeah. So if the deity is here, then this is how the obeisances are offered. Which means the deity is on. So this is the left hand of the devotee. This is the right hand of the devotee. So the deities are on the left hand side of the devotee. So that is the way one is recommended. So Hari Bhakti Vilas says that one should keep the deities on one's left. So preferably do like that. Also, we've discussed earlier while offering obeisances, be careful to not point your feet towards another deity. If your feet are pointing towards another deity because of taking that particular position, then just try to adjust the position a bit in such a way that your feet are not directly pointing towards another deity. Usually temples are designed that doesn't happen. But in some cases, in some temples, there are so many deities that it becomes difficult to do that. For example, when you are in Mayapur, if you are taking darshan of Radha Madhav, you can be at a particular point in the Kirtan hall in front of Radha Madhav, where if you're offering obeisances like this, your feet can be directly pointing towards Lord Narasimhadev. So one should just be careful to avoid that. So one has to adjust one's position or adjust one's angle. Okay, if any questions, you can just call out or mention. Otherwise, I'll just move ahead. So offering respects to Vaishnav. So of course, deities must be offered respects. Also, another point to remember is when we enter the temple for the first time, we offer proper full Ashtangapranams and recite all the Pranam mantras. But generally, the etiquette is when we leave the temple and every time we enter the temple, we offer obeisances to the deities, at least Panchanga just before entering and just as we are exiting the temple. And the same process is to be followed while we are in front of Prabhupada, while if we are in front of our spiritual master. So one should also offer proper respects to the Vaishnavas, the devotees of the Lord. So first, there is a point mentioned in the Brihannaradya Puran that one should offer respects to a Vaishnav, but one should not offer obeisances to a Vaishnav while he is taking bath, collecting wood for a sacrifice, picking flowers, carrying water, or honoring prasad. So most of the times we will not be collecting wood or picking flowers. Carrying water is also unusual, but at least when devotees are having prasad or bathing, of course, bathing nowadays rarely we'll go into a situation when somebody is bathing and we'll go there. But at one time, if people are bathing outside a well or in a common area or bathing in a river or taking a dip, so at those point in time, one should not offer obeisance. And the reason for that is that in that particular situation, the Vaishnav cannot reciprocate back the obeisances given. So as to not inconvenience him, we don't offer him obeisances. Also, we should not offer obeisances if we ourselves are in an impure state, which means we are either eating, bathing, or wearing shoes, or even if our head is covered. So it is said while offering obeisances, if there is a cap or something that we are having, then we should remove it, a headgear. So in such a situation, one should neither receive nor offer obeisances. So the principle is do not offer obeisances if it will inconvenience the Vaishnav. However, even in this situation, when you see a respectable personality, a Vaishnav, at least in one's mind, one can offer obeisances, and that is proper. And later on, whenever you get the proper opportunity, the situation is better, one should offer physical obeisances. And these are the generic rules of obeisances. These offer to any superior person. So these can apply to one's parents, one's teachers, whoever, whether one is a Vaishnava or not a Vaishnava. So these are general etiquette rules. Of course, they apply to Vaishnavas as well. So especially for those who are our seniors, We should offer obeisances to the superior when we see them first, and again when he or she sees us. What does that mean? That means, let's say you enter a room and your spiritual master is there. So as soon as you see your spiritual master, you offer obeisances to him. But the spiritual master was at that time busy talking to another devotee and he didn't even notice that you have entered the room. Later, when the spiritual master notices you, one should offer obeisances again. That is what this particular point means. Of course, it is a good practice to offer obeisances to not just one spiritual master, but even god brothers of the spiritual master, all sannyasis, all this is mandatory. And also to those who are much more senior than us or in a position of our Shiksha Gurus. Then it is proper to offer obeisances, because not offering obeisances in such a situation actually becomes offensive, because that is the proper etiquette. So I want to stop here for this particular section. Any questions or comments? Okay, this part we haven't done. On to the sadhana part. So we want to continue here from section H, which is after deity worship. This is a section of austerity. Okay, so since there are no questions, okay, let's go through austerity. A devotee sadhana must include some very basic austerities at least. What are those? Rising early in the morning, bathing in cool water, regulation in eating and drinking, regulation of one's association, minimizing bodily comforts, possessions, and so on. So many of these aspects have been discussed earlier. So the point is, austerity is also simple living and high thinking, and the basic activities which are meant to bring us to the mode of goodness. Also, austerity for devotees is fasting on certain specified days, Ekadashi, festivals like Narsingh Chaturdashi is coming, or even appearance or disappearance days of the acharyas. So our Guru's appearance day, Prabhupada's appearance and disappearance day, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and other acharyas also. So if you're not sure which days to fast, which not to fast, because you may not remember all the tithis, we have to refer to a Vaishnava calendar. Of course, nowadays the best way to have a Vaishnava calendar is there is a Vaishnava calendar app. So if you refer to the Vaishnava calendar app, then all the tithis are given there, and it also mentions what kind of fasting is to be observed. So that's a very simple way. One of the most important fasts for us as devotees is Ekadashi. So Ekadashi is on the 11th day of both the Krishna Paksha and Shukla Paksha, waxing and waning moons, and hence it comes twice each month. And it's a day of austerity. So of course, we have discussed this multiple times, austerity about not eating grains, beans, etc. But the idea of Ekadashi is not just about fasting, but to increase one's faith and love for Krishna, because it's an opportunity. On those days, bhakti of Krishna is more easily accessible, and that is why devotees of sadhakas are encouraged increase their devotional activities and follow the vrata of Ekadashi. And the real reason for observing Ekadashi is to minimize the demands of the body and to engage our time in devotional service. So fasting helps us to overcome the strong bodily conditioning and to help us come to the realization that actually we are not the body, and that we are not ultimately dependent on food, but ultimately we are dependent on Krishna and Krishna's mercy. So Ekadashi fasts are usually broken on the following day, which is the Dwadashi morning. And that too, one should follow a particular breakfast time. So there is a particular method of calculation. Usually the breakfast time begins around sunrise and goes on to a particular period. I do not know the technicalities of how that period is calculated, but we do not need to go into the technicality. We just have to refer to the Vaishnav calendar. So if you notice, many times when there is a fast, I will send a note saying that next day breakfast time is from this to this on Dwadashi day. For example, 7:15 to 11:05, for example, AM. That means you cannot break fast by eating grains before 7:15 in the morning, even on the next day. You can break fast by eating grains only after 7:15, and you must break your fast before 11:05. As an example, I am giving. These are just indicative dates. You have to check the dates for your local Vaishnav calendar. So please observe those dates, that time, and the Ekadashi fast is said to be properly executed only when one breaks within that particular time. Yeah, Bhaskar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So if we don't break up the fasting on between the times, so what is the alternative?
Then we lose the benefit of the fasting. Yes, that is what it means. And I mean, if you ask very strictly, technically, what that means one should continue fasting across Dwadashi and break it on Trayodasi. But those are, so that is the Shastric recommendation. So better to observe this the time. So basically, one loses the benefit of the vrata technically if one doesn't break in the proper time. So also it is advised that one may chant more and also try to remember the Lord's pastime. One should be strict in avoiding grains, beans. It is best if one can completely fast. Some people can completely fast. Some devotees even fast from water on every Ekadashi. But the guiding point is that you don't want to fast to a point that it affects our day-to-day activities. If you are working, we are doing various duties at home, then it may be difficult for us to execute those duties if we don't eat or drink at all. So whatever is needed in terms of at least not eating grains and beans, but other things, fruits and whatever other Ekadashi items, one can eat to the point that one's duties may be performed. So according to the capacity of our body and the nature of our body, one can do within the permissible limits. So ours is a preaching mission, and if complete fasting impedes our service, it should not be followed. One may consume minimum food and drink to maintain one's service. So this is for very special situations where if one is fasting, one will not be able to do his service at all. But this is not the case for most people. But the point that this particular paragraph is mentioning is what is more important is our ability to perform our service. Because what is the point if we are simply fasting and on the basis of that fasting we are saying I cannot do this seva to the Lord? So that is not considered acceptable, because the whole idea of fasting is to minimize bodily demand so that we can be engaged in the Lord's service. But we cannot say that I will reduce my bodily demands and not engage in Krishna service, then it doesn't make sense. Then there are certain Ekadashis like Nirjala Ekadashi which come once a year, coming very soon. So such Ekadashis, once a year one may observe full Nirjala fast. Then there's Chaturmasya. So these are 4 months: Ashad, Bhadrapad, Ashwin, Kartik. So traditionally in our Vedic system, not just Vaishnavas, but everybody is encouraged to also observe the Chaturmasya fast. Now, different parts of India and different traditions follow the Chaturmasya in different ways, but the broad idea of Chaturmasya, which coincides broadly with the monsoon season of India, it is that during this time, the sadhus would stop traveling and rest in one place. And it was recommended that over these 4 months, a bit more austerity than normal should be done. And in our society, this is the general recommendation of the austerities. So in the first month of Ashad, avoid green leafy vegetables. In Bhadrapad, avoid yogurt. In Ashwin, avoid milk. And in Kartik, avoid urad dal. So this is another aspect of austerity. There are much more stricter standards for Chaturmasya, but this is a very basic that Srila Prabhupada asked devotees to try to observe. The next section is favorable principles and unfavorable principles. So this is from Nectar of Instruction. Nectar of Instruction, written by Srila Rupa Goswami, is a wonderful book for neophytes in devotional service, which gives the key principles to be followed by a neophyte so that they can be properly situated in their advancement on the spiritual path. So there are certain things which Rupa Goswami mentions, that one's devotional service, Shadbir Bhakti Vinashyati, by 6 items one's bhakti becomes destroyed or spoiled. Spoiled is a better word. When a person becomes too entangled in any of the following activities. Number 1, eating too much, or collecting, being greedy to collect more funds than required. Over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, which means to have such high material ambitions which require one to work so hard that it distracts one from spiritual life. Then prajalpa, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matter. The guiding principle for devotees is to try to speak about Krishna as far as possible. Of course, one's job, profession, day-to-day activities, whatever minimum conversations to remain operational in this world is needed, they have to be done. But other than that, one should not absorb one's time in mundane gossip.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, are you doing a share on screen, Prabhu?
Yes. Are
But
you not able to see?
yeah, so I thought I just informed. It was
No,
okay.
I think others are able to see.
We can see that.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay. Then.
I don't know why you're not able to see. Did you just join? Let me do a share again. Wait, let me just try. Maybe be able to see. I'll just stop share and share again. I do not know. Normally that should not be the case, but let's try. Tell me whether you are able to see.
Yes, can Prabhu now. Thanks.
Okay, good. Okay. Then the fourth is practicing spiritual rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not following the regulations of scriptures, and working independently or whimsically. So what this means is that sometimes people follow rules and regulations of scripture, but in a very mechanical way, rather than being driven by a desire for spiritual advancement, just go through the rituals of following certain rules. That is not very good, because that doesn't help us to advance spiritually. One must be driven by a desire for spiritual advancement, for developing one's love for Krishna when one is following devotional principles. That is important. And at the same time, one should not be lazy to not follow the devotional principles. Both of these are not conducive to spiritual advancement. The next point is Jana Sanga. Janasanga means associating too much with worldly minded people, which means having close association with materialistic individuals. And sixth is laulya, or being too greedy for mundane achievements. So this is a verse from Nectar of Instruction. Atyahara prayasascha prachal punyamagraha janasangascha laulyascha shadbir bhakti vinasya. So we are discussing this in very brief. Each of these points needs to be discussed in very great detail. Perhaps whenever we come to discussion Nectar of Instruction, we can actually discuss this. But each of these points, there is so much to discuss in terms of practical application. But at least for the purpose of this conversation, I think can leave it at this level. So summarily, don't eat or gather more than necessary. Don't work too hard for materialistic things which are very difficult to achieve. Don't engage too much in materialistic gossip. Follow spiritual rules for spiritual advancement and not just for the sake of following them. And don't disregard following of scriptural instructions. Be careful to not associate too much with materialistic people, and do not be greedy for material achievements. At the same time, Goswami also mentions there are 6 principles which are favorable to the execution of devotional service. Utsahat, Nischayat, Dhairyat, Tattat Karma Pravartanat, Sangatyagat, Sato Vritte, Shadbir Bhakti, Asiddhiti. By 6 items, one's bhakti becomes enhanced. What are they? Utsaha. Utsaha means enthusiasm. Enthusiasm for following devotion, devotional principles. So if somebody says, "Oh, there is a class tomorrow," yes, one more class, enthusiastic. I rather say, "Oh, one more." So show enthusiasm. So even whatever we are doing in devotional service, whether it is any seva that we are doing, we should do it enthusiastic. Because we want to show Krishna, we are so excited to serve him. If we try to show Krishna that, "Oh, Krishna, serving you is such a burden, I'm just doing it," then that is not going to be very pleasing to the Lord. We have to show him that we are enthusiastic. At the same time, utsahat nischayat, one should be enthusiastic, but also one must have strong faith. One should endeavor with confidence. Confidence that we will attract Krishna's mercy. We are enthusiastically doing devotional service. But how soon we will attract Krishna's mercy, we don't know. That's why we also have to be patient. Point number 3. Saha, Nishchaya, Dhairya. Nishchaya is not demanding to Krishna. Krishna, I'm confident, but that doesn't mean you have to do it immediately. I'm chanting Hare Krishna, but tears will not flow through my eyes after day 7. Know that. It may take 7 years. It may take 70 years. It may take 7 lifetimes. It all depends on us. Hopefully not that long. But we must be patient. And as we are patient and enduring with enthusiasm and with confidence, we must continue to follow the regulative principles. Tat tat karma pravartanat, shravanam, kirtanam, Vishnu Paranam. All our sadhana one must continue to perform enthusiastically. And at the same time, one should sangatyagat, abandon the association of non-devotees and follow the process as given by the previous acharyas. Sato vrittehe. So if one follows devotional service like this, one will make very rapid spiritual advancement. So this part is actually from Nectar of Instruction, and this is quite an interesting and important part, favorable and unfavorable. Any questions on this part?
No problem.
Yeah. So J, Brahmana. So within our initiation system, there are 2 levels of, actually 3 levels of initiation. One is the first initiation, which is the Harinam initiation. The second level initiation is the Brahman Diksha. where the devotees are given the sacred thread and also certain initiation mantras by which they can worship the deities. So devotees who have been given the second initiation, they should follow strictly the chanting of the Gayatri mantras according to the instructions of the Guru. And Brahmanas must, make an endeavor to learn and practice deity worship, because that is one of the main purpose of second initiation. So this may not be relevant immediately for most of you, but this is for your information. And the third initiation is sannyas initiation. Okay, so even if you don't take all three, at least you should aim to take the first two. Of course, if any of you become sannyasis, I'll be very happy. But no pressure for that. At least first, if you do second initiation also, that is also wonderful. Importance of time. So again, now that I am mentioning about Brahmanas, I just want you all to be aware also that only second initiated Brahmana devotees are allowed to enter into the altar and worship, perform deity worship. Either aartis or naivedya offering, or even dressing the deities, or even cooking for the deities. Only second initiated Brahmana devotees are allowed. That is the standard, according to scripture. Importance of time. Every moment of human life is precious, so do not waste a single moment. The scriptures say one of the symptoms of an advanced devotee is avyartha kalatvam, which means they don't even waste a moment without serving the Lord. They're always thinking, oh, I must make sure every moment is used nicely in the Lord's service. That's the symptom of an advanced soul. And that is why serious sadhakas make every endeavor to see that we are engaged as much as possible in devotional service of the Lord. This great benediction that we have received, both of human life and the opportunity to practice Krishna consciousness, should not be wasted. And that is why the more advanced a person is, one will see that they are more serious about this principle. And you will see serious devotees, they will not waste their time in idle things. They will always somehow or the other hear a class, read a book, engage in some seva, do something to keep their mind absorbed in Krishna consciousness. They will not idle away their time. Okay, so we are almost at 9:50, so I want to stop here. So this is the appendix. So I'll remember this appendix 8. What else is there? Oh, 10 offenses are also there. Okay, Arti process is there. Ekadashi. Okay, excellent. Let me stop sharing. Wonderful. So, any questions or anything anybody wants to add? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I think I'm referring to, last week. Okay, okay. When we come to offering at home, okay, of course, generally most of us when we cook something at home, we will offer and all. How okay, Prabhu, sometimes I think due to time, place, and sometimes example that food which is not cooked at home, let's say bread or what, something which you buy from out, can we also offer it up? Because I don't know, sometimes some of them say anything you eat best you offer, but then sometimes there are other what school of thought thing that.
So yeah, so of course the ideal standard is, as we read in this book, food cooked by devotees, offered by devotees, is the ideal standard. Now, so technically, very strictly speaking, no. Yeah. But we also have to understand what does that no mean. If that no means you are not going to eat it at all, then it's okay. But that no means you are still going to eat it but not offer it, then you are going to a standard which is even lower, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah. So the point is that sometimes one may be doing something which may not be ideal, but if the other alternative is even worse, then better to follow something which is not perfect, but still the principle is upheld. So in that spirit, uh, you know, uh, at least at home, for installed deities, obviously in the temple we cannot do that. So that it will be very strict, but at least in a home standard, the best principle to follow is that whatever is vegetarian and without onion and garlic, if the family is consuming it, then better it is best to offer rather than to not offer. Because not offer means you'll take karma. But is that offering the best standard? In some cases, it may not be the best standard because processed food is not the best standard. But then, if the choice is between eating a biscuit without offering and offering a biscuit and eating, then it is better to offer the biscuit and eat, isn't it?
Yes, right.
Yeah. So that is the point. So we have to look at it in that spirit. But again, on this point, different devotees may have different opinions. Yeah. And sometimes some spiritual masters may also have different opinions. So sometimes some spiritual masters may also say, no, you eat, if you want to eat processed food, don't offer it to your deities, you just mentally offer it and eat. So different gurus may have slightly different opinions on this point. So I just want to be cognizant. uh, but generally what we have been advised, what I have learned from my Guru Maharaj and my other senior god brothers is, if you are going to eat it anyway, better you offer, because at home it's a different standard. Better you offer and eat. Yes, it is not ideal. We are not saying it is best. But if you're anyway going to eat, then for your own sake, for your own, it is better to, because if we eat without offering, we eat sin. That is the point. So the ideal standard is whatever we cook, we do it for pleasing Krishna. But then we go one level lower. What is one level lower? Yat karoshi yadashnashi yajjuhosi dadasi. Whatever you eat, you offer to Krishna. You understand? The ideal standard is give Krishna what he loves to eat. Give him the topmost. Which means if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loves Karela sabji, which he loves all kinds of pumpkins, he loves all kinds of shak, and you just hate shak and pumpkins and Karela. But you're still cooking it because you have deities of Gaurnit and you're thinking, oh, I'm cooking for them and I just want to please them. If somebody has that consciousness, then that is wonderful. But that kind of a consciousness is difficult to maintain at home, because at home you have to be conscious of family and other family members' needs, their diet restrictions, their likes, dislikes. That is quite common. So what happens usually at home is, rather than pure bhakti standards, it becomes a little bit of karma yoga standard. It becomes yad karoshi, yad ashnashi. Yad ashnashi means whatever you eat. So today, Lord, I feel like eating, paneer sabji, for example, paneer matar I want to eat. So the thought of eating paneer matar is not come because you want to please the Lord. It came because, oh, I have not eaten paneer matar for a long time. Correct? I mean, let's be honest, right? So then in that case, yes, we will cook it, but then we will offer it to the Lord. Then it becomes yadashnasi. I am going to eat this, but I want to offer to the Lord to acknowledge him. So that is not the perfect standard. that is better than not offering it. Correct. Then one more level lower is it is not even a fresh food. It's a processed food which you have bought because you want to eat it. Whether it be for convenience or taste or whatever the motivation, or sometimes even for travel. Right? Whatever the motivation be, but then one has to do accordingly. Okay, so for very specific opinions in this regard, if you have a spiritual master, you can either ask him or your senior god brothers. But this is what for Radhanath Maharaj and his disciples, of course, we are told that if at all you're anyway going to eat it, better you offer it eat rather than simply eat. But the ideal standard is the same. To have sattvic food cooked with love to please the Lord, offered and then accepted as person. That is the best. Okay, Prabhu. Any other questions, comments?
Next, Prabhu.
Yes, Bhaskar.
Prabhu, this is regarding wearing kanti mala, Tulsi mala.
Yeah.
So does it that is how to wear after we take the initiation, or before also we can take that, Prabhu?
So Kantimala is one of the emblems that adorn the body of a devotee, along with tilak, right? Tilak and Kantimala. So the ideal standard is that one adorns the symbol when one is at least able to follow the minimum standards of that identity. What does that mean? For example, if you have joined a medical college, you don't want to pose yourself as a doctor wearing a coat and carrying a stethoscope and going around until you have trained yourself like that. Or you have joined a military academy, you don't want to wear the cap and the stars and the jacket unless you have come to a basic point of qualification. So the general advice is that one adorns the emblems when one is following the spiritual principles. And why is that important? That is important because otherwise people at large see an incongruence between what you are posing your identity and your real identity, which also becomes a disservice. Correct. Yeah. So for example, you're wearing a kantimala and somebody is eating a chicken tandoori in a restaurant with tilak, kantimala, and his hand is eating. So then that becomes so incongruent in terms of the activity and the identity. But he says, no, I'm devotee of Krishna, so it's okay. But devotee of Krishna means coming up to a particular level of behavior and standard. So while there are not such strictly enforced rules in this context, the general advice that devotees are given is tilak, if you are at least avoiding gross sinful activities. Okay, what does that mean? If you are avoiding meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, at least at a gross level, you can adorn a tilak. But for adorning the kantimala, ideally one should be following all the 4 regulative principles, including eating a sattvic diet. That is the general recommendation. Which means for those who are working towards initiation, when they are avoiding onion garlic, then they are avoiding all intoxicants, including tea and coffee. That is the right standard for wearing Tulsi Kantimala. So that is the recommendation, because otherwise offenses may happen. So there are many aspects to it, but that is a general recommendation. So Kantimala is a bit more strict than the Tilak. And that is why sometimes some devotees either wear the Kanti only when they are following all the rules. All means I'm talking at least about the even if they're not doing 16 rounds yet, that's okay. But as long as they are no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, as long as they are following this, including onion garlic, then they can wear the Kantimala. It's okay even if they're not chanting 16 rounds yet. That is the yes, bro.
Hare Krishna, bro. But I think I've seen sometimes people they use the word Kantimala made of this Anthroponym first, and then once they're really following all the regulatory principles, then they wear the Tulsi made of.
But I personally, I personally don't
I'm not sure.
appreciate that. For the reason is, see, yes, you may not be committing offense to Tulsi, but that is not the only consideration in this regard. Correct. The other consideration is we are posing an identity of a devotee, but not behaving as a devotee. That is also a very important consideration. Correct. Yeah. For example, if somebody is wearing a sannyas dress, carrying a sannyas danda, okay, and then is seen walking in the marketplace holding the hand of a lady and swaying the hands and a young lady and walking. It's totally incongruent, right? You're portraying the identity of a sannyas, but you're walking with a lady. It brings it. You are actually you're misrepresenting what you are posing as your identity. So in that way, you're doing anti-preaching. You are actually spoiling the name of devotees. You're bringing, like what Amit was just mentioning, bringing disrepute to the organization. So that is another consideration. So if you are wearing even a Kantimala made of neem, that you know neem, but the world doesn't know whether this is neem. Once you're wearing a Kantimala, especially a prominent one, right? From the perspective of the world, it is the same. But if one is really very keen to wear, then one should wear at least in a way that it is not visible. I'm talking about neem in this case. Yeah, at least something which is not prominently visible. You understand? So both aspects have to be considered. So this is my opinion that one should avoid misrepresentation.
Thank you. Understood.
Actually, the Kantimala and Tilak are actually such an honor. Actually, Tilak and Kantimala are such an honor to wear. That is why Yamaraj has been given very strict instructions by the Yamadutas have been given strict instructions by Yamaraj. Don't even go near somebody who's putting on Tilak and Kantimala because they are not under my jurisdiction. They are under the jurisdiction of Lord Vishnu, even if they have accidentally committed some mistakes. That is what Yamaraj did. So it's not a small thing. It's not a cheap decoration. It comes with responsibility. Okay, anything else? Okay, wonderful. So thank you very much for showing your enthusiasm. You're all displaying utsaha, nishchay, dhairya, patiently hearing enthusiastically. So I'm sure Krishna will appreciate it very much. So I'll see you all on Wednesday. We'll discuss our Gita. Then on Saturday, we'll discuss Narsinga pastimes. This class will resume after 2 weeks. Okay. Thank you. Haribol, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Samaveta Gaura Bhakta. Thank
Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Thank you very much. Prabhu.
Hari Bol, Bhaskar. Thank you, everyone. Anita Mataji,
Hare
nice to
Krishna.
see you. Thank you. Hari Bol. Hari, you're
Hare
all
Krishna
together today.
and thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you. Anand Sundari Mataji and family. Sudhir Sundar Prabhu, you reached home.
Yes, yes. Yes, reach Prabhuji.
Oh, you also reached. Now I was mentioning Sudhir Sundar Prabhu's name. Yeah, I can see you reached. You were not supposed to be able to join. All of you are there. So wonderful. Great. Mihira, how are you? All well? Hari Hari, Sapna ji also. Shraddha ji, Sunit ji, all well? Thank you so much. So have a good evening and I'll see you all on Wednesday.